You have a land which is a static environment, and you have a sea which is a dynamic entity. So over a period the sea will erode the coastlines, and you need something which is very solid and more dynamic than the water itself. My name is Vivek Kulkarni, and I've been known as coastal ecologist and mangrove expert. I don't know whether I'm an expert or not, but I have gained a lot of experience by observing the environment around us. Mangroves are limited by various factors. For example, they will never grow if water temperature goes below 16 degrees Celsius. It's called as 16 degrees Celsius isotherm. So that is why they are found only in the tropical and subtropical areas throughout the world. They are not salt-liking plants. They are salt-tolerant plants. And that is why they are found more where the salinity is less. Salinity is a limiting factor. So you need to have some kind of a river coming and feeding that area. Now the river brings the silt in that area, which is very fine, suspended particulate matter, what we call, which is less than 0.6 microns in size. When it combines with the salt, there is a process called flocculation, and they settle and large mudflats are created. These mudflats are the land for the mangroves. If mudflats are very loose, mangrove trees cannot grow. Then initially the grasses grow over them, they make it solid, they make it land-like, and the mangroves start growing. Because they have adapted to the intertidal region, you have to have every 6 hours a tide coming and washing it away. This has given it its peculiarities. This is the few of the plants which are viviparous. That means they directly give birth to a young plant. After the tsunami in Nagapattinam and those areas, how the colonies over colonies of people had been wiped out, and wherever mangrove protection was there, those areas were saved. So truly they are saviors for the people. And Mumbai, with a 438 square kilometer of land area, if a tsunami comes with a height of say even 5 meters, with a speed of 500 kilometers an hour, within 15 minutes it can wipe out Mumbai. You can look at these consequences when we are having a large population in a city, in a small area, which is vulnerable to the mighty action of the sea. But we also need to look at the history of Mumbai. The several islands were there, they were filled up, and there is a large history of reclamation. So this large population is sitting on unviable land. We are on loose lands. It can be washed away. So you need to have mangroves wherever they are necessary, which are in the various creeks, etc. 1991 onwards, a lot of people started talking about mangroves. They wanted to save mangroves. Suddenly, Ministry of Environment also took it as ecological hotspots, and highest amount of conservation protection was given to the mangroves. Suddenly, mangroves became very important. Now, here there is another view, which as a scientist I can put forward to people, is mangroves are mainly growing in the different creeks of Mumbai. They cannot sustain the sea, so you will not find them on west coast of Mumbai, whereas they are more found on the east coast, which is flanked by the Thane Creek. Now this creek has large mudflats on which mangroves are growing, but they have covered most of the land area, and over the past periods, because of so many developmental activities, a large number of silt gets washed into the creek. Now the mangrove roots trap this silt, and slowly the entire area is getting filled up with the mud, and this stops the drainage of water from Mumbai, which needs to be taken to the sea. But this water is not having that much of depth to be carried to the sea, and that is why we have more and more of flooding situations in Mumbai. During the heavy monsoon, this water is phenomenally increased, and at the same time, if there is a high tide, then this water backwashes into the city areas. Second example, people are so happy about flamingos being there. Now about 1,50,000. Why do they come here? Because of the increasing siltation where they can stand, and secondly, increasing algae and other micro animals which are created by the sewage. Added to up is the warm water coming from the Tata Thermal Power Station and BARC. Now this has led to large numbers of flamingos getting attracted. Now if we look at it with a myopic view, we will say that wow, it's a flamingo city and we have flamingos coming. But if you look at it as a biological indicator, it is telling you that your creeks are silting up, wake up. It needs to be managed now, because there is too much of mangroves, too much of flamingos, too much of humans. Everything is going to clash with each other till it dies. And this is where we need to look at it with a concept called urban ecology. What is urban ecology? Urban ecology is I have to look at myself as a human being as part of this ecosystem. Metro is part of urban ecology, your roads are part of the ecology, buildings are part of the ecology, and how can we wisely use this to protect the entire ecosystem of Mumbai. Climate resilience is there with every single species and with every ecosystem. Minor impacts of the climate are always overcome by these systems, but you need to allow that resilience to develop, to grow. You have to give space. We need to be wiser, and I actually welcome the decision of Thane Creek designated as a Ramsar site, because Ramsar Convention talks about wise use. Okay, it is wise use and not disuse. What happens is, when we have a conservation measures like say Sanjay Gandhi National Park, how many thousands of slums started growing in that area. The moment you stop a use of particular area, there are always people coming in. If we use planned use, which is ecologically acceptable of every inch of this city, I feel we can be resilient to the climate change, and we can have our existence in this particular city for many years to come. Otherwise, we do not know what would be the impact 30 years hence because of the rising sea levels, etc. So, instead of running away from this, can we make this area better so that it can sustain longer, is a big question. And if we are ready to come forward with answers, I think it will work for the city. People and communities need to have their direct command over the wetlands. This particular kind of a program has been carried out in many African countries and some of the South Asian countries, and it has worked. So it needs to work in Mumbai. Now for that, what do we have? I mean, I have been working with Koli Samaj, that is the fishermen of Mumbai area. They are the original inhabitants of the city. Now, since 1975, the population of fish has been declining continuously because of various aspects. Now, many of them are so poor that they need to look at only fish as their daily protein supplement, but it cannot sustain their households. I think this is the right community to be brought into the protection of the mangroves. That way we can give them additional source of income, and we can get their unconditional support to grow this phenomenal ecosystem which is for Mumbai. That is how this community cannot be separated for Mumbai. So can we citizens form groups with them and have projects which can protect the ecosystem? We don't require restoration of Mumbai. There are enough mangroves and they are growing phenomenally. We need to have a better understanding of this ecosystem. We need to employ these people into something which is good for the city. In the bargain, they are also getting benefited, and when this felt need is there that the mangroves and the wetlands of Mumbai need to be conserved, that's the time it would be a successful model. We can have smaller groups which can educate these people. We can actually have number of visiting centers across not just Mumbai, maybe even from Maharashtra, where people can be educated about it. So we have a city and collectively we have environmental performance. Now, whether this performance is good or bad, we need to have indicators. Can we have these mangroves and wetlands as the indicator of our performance? I think we will be able to measure it, and we will be able to save the city on a larger platform.